Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 564, the top income games that we don't own. Wah, wah, wah.
I love that.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
I think we have a horn button on there, don't we?
Yeah, somewhere on there. I'd start pressing buttons, but I don't.
It would get all sorts of noises.
We'd get all kinds of things, yeah.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. They have amazing product. Improve every game night with a game topper from GameToppersLLC.com. Go there. You'll love it. We love it. GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holliday.
I'm Douglas Stewart.
And I'm Nathan Howard.
We would love for you to go to our website and check out what we have to offer there. We have links to all of our episodes. We have blogs. We have photos of some of our favorite gaming experiences. And we have bios of each of us, your hosts, and some of our previous hosts, and also some of our bloggers. We love what we do, and we love our listeners. If you too love what we do, we would invite you to click our Patreon link on our webpage. Go over to Patreon, become a patron, and help us improve the podcast. Become an official member of Meeple Nation. Also, we'd love to hear from you. So if you have a question or a comment or a recommendation, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at meeplenation@gmail.com, and we will get back to you and maybe highlight something that a question you've asked on our episodes. Who knows? You never know until you try.
That's right. You miss every shot you don't take.
Very, very good. We oftentimes joke about when the whole time sort of running gag is going to run its course. But as of right now, I'm still checking my imaginary watch. And it is indeed Highlight 30.
It does look like it is Highlight 30.
So for now, it persists, apparently.
All right. I approve. I don't know about meet o'clock. That one might go away.
That one probably needs to go away.
But Highlight 30, I'm okay.
Meet o'clock's better than Highlight 30. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I can understand that with you.
Understand what you're saying?
As our resident carnivore, I was going to say what only eats meat. Well, I guess that's a carnivore. The rest of us may be some omnivores, but Andy only eats vegetables if he's tied down and forced fed.
I eat vegetable substitute.
Yeah, even
vegetable substitute.
Even then, though, you got to chop them up real small.
Yeah, that's right. Got to mix it in some gravy. It's just like a little kid.
What highlights do you have for us? Andy, what do you got?
Most everybody knows, because we've talked about it several times on the podcast, my daughter recently got married. She's been my little gaming buddy for years, and we don't get to see her very often anymore. My youngest daughter picked her up for a baby shower. They went to the baby shower, and they came home, and Amara was home, and I said, hey, are you going to be coming? This was on a Saturday, and they usually come over for Sunday dinner, and I asked, are you coming for Sunday dinner so we can play a game with you? And she's like, well, I'm here now. Let's just play a game now. I'm like,
challenge accepted.
What a great idea. We played Terraforming Mars the Dice game, her and my wife and myself. To understand where I'm coming from with this is Amara has a bit of a learning disability. She has struggled in school and everything else. Board games have been a huge thing for her. I've seen her grow so much by just playing board games, and her development of her critical thinking skills and being able to see cause and effect and being able to plan ahead. Her ability to do that has come from playing board games, because that is something she really, really lacked as a child. And she kicked our butts.
Awesome.
She totally worked us. And to see her little brain working across the table did nothing but just brought a huge smile to my face.
That's great.
It was awesome. I loved it. It was probably my favorite experience playing Terraforming Mars, the dice game, which is a fun game. But just playing that with her and seeing everything, her just planning everything out like she was, that just warmed my heart. It was awesome.
I mean, I've only known Amara 5 years now, and I have seen a huge change in her ability to play games and to reason. Great to see that improvement and to continue to see that improvement in her skills.
Board games have been a huge, huge thing for her. And hey, if you're going to learn and develop some sort of skill like that, life skill, why not have fun doing it?
Absolutely. Douglas, what do you got?
As you guys know, I've talked about this previously, but sometimes I get to play Arkham Horror, the card game, with my good friends, the Deans. And sometimes, because scheduling seems to be the number one enemy of all things board game related, sometimes it doesn't work out that we can all get together, but Matt is still available. So he and I, when we're not able to play Arkham as the three of us, Matt and I have been making our way through a campaign of Undaunted Stalingrad. So a couple weeks ago, no, this was last week, we got together. He came over to my house and we jumped back in and played a couple missions further into our campaign. I am continuing to like this game more and more. I am continuing to lose. My losing streak is 100% so far. I want to say we're 6 or 7 games in. I have lost every single one. It has been so close every single time. The exception of maybe one that I can remember, none of them have been blowout scenarios at all. They've come right down to it. And on the last one that we played, the victory was so close. It was in my grasp, and he snatched it away from me. I am just loving this experience. I love Stalingrad. You only play on a section at a time, but the entire map is sort of plotted out on the tiles with numbers. So it's, if you think of like a really big grid that you only play on a certain section at a time.
Right.
As damage and different events and things happen on those tiles, they change. You slot them in a different section in the box and you pull out a new section that has damaged buildings or that has alternate stuff on it in some way, shape, or form. So in that way, the terrain that you're fighting on changes as the campaign goes. And I really love that mechanic. I just love this game. I think it's a ton of fun to play. Every time we get it to the table, it's fantastic. It did inspire me to jump online and do a little research to find out if Stalingrad was maybe a little imbalanced toward the Germans. I actually found quite a few people on there that said that was their experience too, that the Germans had just a little bit of an edge, especially in the earlier scenarios of the game. But then I also found a whole bunch of people that were like, nah, it's completely balanced. So my research did not yield a definitive answer, and more than likely, I just really suck at it. Or Matt is just really, really good at it.
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate to losing games. That's one of my. I put that on my resume nowadays. That exceptional at losing games.
Yeah. So one of these days, I am going to get the win. But we're probably about a third of the way through that campaign now at this point, and loving every minute of it. It's been super, super fun.
Well, it is time for my Highlight 30, and this is a game that I love to share with you guys, but it's been a while, and it feels like every time we get back to this game, it always makes our highlights. But this game is fantastic, and I love that we played through 3 scenarios of it just last week.
Yep, it was awesome.
Stars of Ikarios is a phenomenal game. I very much enjoy it, very much enjoy my experiences playing with it. And just I find that the stories are well written, the exploration, we're doing the space dogfights, we're doing the just narrative missions, we're doing the away missions. All of those combine very well. I think Stars of Ikarios is an outstanding game, and I was so excited to get it back to the table.
This is a 3-act game, and we are getting really close to wrapping up this first Act 1. There was a time as we were kind of playing through it and doing side missions and things where I was like, this is maybe getting a little repetitive or some of that kind of stuff. As we're coming to the conclusion of this first act, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it ends and how we transition into Act 2. And the story has actually, I feel like it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm very excited as well. I'm glad we got this to the table.
With that, done with our highlights. Highlight 30 is come and gone. For those who have missed, including you, Andy, is we've been talking about some income games.
Yes.
Compiled a list of games that we don't own. And I have actually included some of the games that were on your list, Andy, to see if you want to talk about some of these. We talked briefly about some of them, maybe less giddy on one game. I'm not going to mention Cooper Island, but
I can't believe you guys talked about Cooper Island without anybody there to defend it.
Yeah, we made sure everybody knew that it was one to pass on.
Such a great game.
Not only did we didn't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, there was.
You should have. Shame on you guys.
You say that, and I'm not feeling the guilt.
Yeah. And actually going through this list of top-rated income games that didn't make our initial list that I went through, I found some games that for some reason didn't make it that we do own, and maybe we'll talk about some of those. Brass Birmingham's the first one on the list that I wanted to talk about. But do you own this one, Douglas?
I do. Yeah, I do have this one.
Okay. And you just had a recent opportunity to play it too, right?
Well, so how long ago was that? It was 6 months ago, something like that?
6 to 8 months ago.
Greg taught this to us.
He did.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah,
I thought it was more recent than that.
It's been a little while. So at this point, I would have to do another review of rules or whatever. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can see why people like it. I will admit that for me, and this is just a Doug thing, I guess I'm not really seeing what people are raving about it, or why people are raving about it so much to the point that it would be like a top 5 game, which it has. I mean, it's been number 1 for a while. It's been number 2.
Yeah.
And I'd have to go look at where it's at right now, but I think it's in the top 3 still. I'm not sure that I get that after one play. But it is a very good game, and it's one that I really want to return to at some point. But it's an excellent game and an excellent example of an income-driven game.
Yeah,
One I haven't tried yet.
I would have to agree with Doug on this. I had a good time with it. Usually games that I play, even if either you or Doug or someone else in our group owns them, if it's something that I am like, okay, I'm buying that. I don't care if someone else owns it. It's going to be on my shelf. I didn't get that with Brass Birmingham.
Okay.
It was fun. I would play it again. If someone brought it, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's play. But it's not one I'll probably end up buying.
And also on the list is Brass Lancashire and Laneshire.
Lincolnshire. Yeah.
Whatever.
Nailed it. First try. Yeah, and just as a quick update, it is back to number 1. So Brass Birmingham, number 1 game on BGG right now.
Okay.
So people absolutely love this game, which really does lead me to believe that we need to play it some more to try to maybe understand why that is.
Probably. Yeah.
I would definitely put it somewhere on the top 100 after one play.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would too.
But it wouldn't be on the top 50 of that, if that makes sense for me after one play. That I just don't quite get, but it is a very, very solid game. And Lancashire, I'm thumbing down here, is at 21. Both very good.
Maybe we just need to play that one more time within the next little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, I would like to try it for sure.
Which is easy when one of us actually owns the game and nobody has to buy it. There's no excuse.
There's no excuse for not getting it to the table.
Yeah. So a little bit of a deviation from the title of the podcast or of this episode, which is games we don't own, because we do own that one.
Yeah.
But we'll get to it a little bit more. That's one we need to revisit. Another one that we've talked about in the past, I know we have, that I think just gets overlooked because I just hear everybody say, go play the app. And that is Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization, which I've heard is a good game. I know a lot of people like it, but I have also heard people for the last couple of years say, go play the app, because apparently this game has a ton of components, a lot of fiddly little things, and the app can take care of all of that for you.
And it is available on BGA.
Yeah, we could try that too.
There's several Through the Ages games that are on BGA. One of my favorite Through the Ages games is Through the Ages, The Bronze Age, which is a die rolling game. Same thing with the Iron Age, older game. One that I used to own with the move. Somehow I lost that, or somebody borrowed it and I didn't know about it. It could have happened. Most likely I lost it, got lost in a box, thrown away, something like that. But I was able to reacquire that, and I was very glad that I did. Now that also has a implementation on BGA. This is a game that Dave and I used to play all the time in person, and you could play it on Yucata as well. I really enjoy the BGA app itself, or the BGA website. I think Board Game Arena does a great job with all their apps.
I totally agree. Yep.
And it's a far greater experience on BGA than it was on Yucata. But still, Through the Ages, I haven't tried any of the core games, but the dice games, the Iron Age and the Bronze Age, I've very much enjoyed both of those. One of us should read some rules and play that online.
It's a 4.44, so it's going to take a little work, but I think it's worth it. Overall ranked number 14 right now, so definitely one that would be worth our time, I believe.
Yeah. Next on the list.
The number 2 on the list actually was Gaia Project, which I own. I've actually had that game since it originally came out. And Nathan, we got to play this fairly recently.
Yeah, in fact, I talked about that where we played with the new expansion.
We did, yeah.
Comparing Terra Mystica and Gaia Project, I enjoy Gaia Project more because it's probably more sci-fi related.
Yep.
Not probably. It is more sci-fi related, but that's probably why I like it more. But Terra Mystica is still a really good game.
I love Terra Mystica.
But this new expansion was nice.
It was cool. I liked having all the ships that you're interacting with. I thought it made the game more interesting. I mean, it's already a heavier game than Terra Mystica is. Yeah, with as far as Gaia Project goes, I think it's strong suit for me anyway. And Terra Mystica has the same strong suit, and that's where the replayability of it with the different races and different factions that you're able to play. Each one of those plays so differently in the abilities they have, what you want to unlock, in what order, and how you're interacting. That's going to dictate how you're interacting with the board and potentially how you're interacting with the other players on the board. I think that's its strong suit, and both of those games have that. I do like the fact that the expansion for Gaia Project is completely different than the expansions that they've come out with for Terra Mystica, and it really played to the sci-fi theme very well. And so I really enjoyed our playthrough of that, and it's one that we hadn't played prior to that. We hadn't played it for, my goodness, 3 or 4 years probably.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And it's a great game. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it's number 2 on the list because it's a really fun game. And it probably is a superior game because there's a lot more, it's more involved than Terra Mystica is. And I probably like Terra Mystica for the same reason you like Gaia Project, because it has the more fantasy theme to it. And I am drawn more to the fantasy.
And I think that's exactly what I said last time. And I thought that you would rate Terra Mystica higher than you would Gaia Project.
Yep.
But then I was debating with the expansion if that would have changed at all. But now we know. Still Terra Mystica.
Still Terra Mystica, although that expansion did kick Gaia Project up a couple notches in my book, because it was a very great expansion. I think I very much enjoyed it anyway.
So the next one I want to talk about is Barrage. Nations vie for hydroelectric dominance in a dystopia where water is power. This is one that has I always hate to say that a cover kind of draws you in, or you can't judge a game by its cover, but this is a game that very much intrigues me with just the cover box alone. But it's one that I've never played. I've seen it played. I've watched people play it. There's a BGA implementation, I believe, of this, and just is a game that I have a ton of interest in, but I have not picked it up, and I don't know why. And it's one that I should pick up.
Sounds like it's going to get added to your cart.
If anything on this list makes it to my cart, it would easily be Barrage. Plus, it's on a BGA implementation, and I can play it often. And nothing inspires my cart more than a BGA implementation.
As Andy's just over there shaking his head, he's just like, I can't even believe this is happening.
Wow.
Well, much like Barrage, the next one on the list is Food Chain Magnet. And much like Barrage and a couple of the others that we've already talked about here, I personally am finding that more and more games that have a weight above a 4.0, Barrage has a 4.11, Food Chain Magnet has a 4.19. I'm finding those a little bit less and less appealing. Not because they aren't fantastic games, and not because I don't want to try them, but just because I already have so many big games I'm trying to get through rulebooks, I'm trying to get played. I kind of already feel like I am wading my way through 4+ weight scale games, and I just don't have any time or energy now to add more to my want to play list.
I get that.
Food Chain Magnet is one. I mean, this is a 10-year-old game at this point. I know that it's one that a lot of people like. It just came out with a really super deluxeified edition. If there is any one thing that has kind of turned me away from Food Chain Magnet, it's just that I have heard a lot of commentators, a lot of podcasters, a lot of YouTube personalities have all said the same thing, which is if you make a mistake in the early game, it's over. There's no real coming back unless pretty much everybody else at the table at some point over the 3 to 4 hours it takes to play this game also make big mistakes. All of them have told stories essentially of making an early game blunder and never being able to catch up. That's a little bit of a turnoff for me, for sure.
It's a huge turnoff,
right? And yet I'm still looking here. I'm looking at the BGG site, and I'm seeing that this has an 8.1. So a lot of people love it, and that's a consideration on a lot of those rankings and a lot of the reviews that people have of this game. So I think it's okay to recognize that that's a thing that exists because you've heard it from multiple sources, but I also think it's important to take some of those things with a grain of salt and not internalize them too much, because this is obviously a great game. It is definitely not one that I would say no to, but it's probably one I'm going to say no to for a while.
Yeah.
until I can get caught up a little bit. And I do have a plan for that. It's not just this pie in the sky, maybe one day, kind of thing. I mean, 2025 is a year I am actually particularly hyper focused on getting through my shelf of shame and kind of changing how I buy and look at games and stuff. And so maybe on the other end of that, I'll start looking at some of these heavier games that I've missed, that have been out for a while, with a little more eagerness and maybe a little more interest. That's me ranting a little bit. I don't know. And I don't know how you guys feel about games like this, but eventually I'd love to play them.
I agree. I would love to play it, and given the opportunity, I would sit down and play it. But there is that issue, right? Playing a game with somebody who's played it several times. I enjoy playing a game, and I don't mind losing, but I also don't like where I've just feel totally demolished in a game.
Or like I'm going to sit here for 4 hours and never have an opportunity to catch up. Losing it really doesn't bother me. But sometimes the manner in which a loss takes place is like, that feels gross. I didn't like that.
I just had a recent experience where we were all learning a game, but one person definitely grasped it more. And then they were already winning. And then the end game score came in. It's kind of like, I'm sure how Brad felt playing From the Moon with you, Andy.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but
yeah, we played this game 30, 40 points ahead. And that end game score came over 100 points difference.
That's probably how Brad felt about playing Windmill Valley with me as well.
I would experience with that, yeah.
Yeah, but it was both of our first time playing.
Yeah.
Whereas with From the Moon, I actually taught it and had played it and happened to have gotten my favorite faction. So that's beside the point. But I understand what you're saying. If you get totally demolished, yeah, it can affect your like or dislike for the game.
Yeah. The other player wasn't like in your face, ha ha ha, take that.
Right. He wasn't a sore winner.
Right, yeah, no. But it is kind of disheartening when you see the game and the game ends. And I'm not saying they shouldn't add up their score by any means, but it was like, okay, you totally won. And now you're going to add 75 more points to that. And it's just like, I feel like an idiot, but a feeling I'm used to. So,
well, I think that it just depends on the person. There's certain games that I
click with people.
Yeah, that click with people. And there's certain, like for me, when the rules are being explained, I'm like, okay, this is my jam. This is a game I'm going to do great at. It's something I love. That type of game makes sense. There are other games that I'm sitting here trying to figure out, what in the world am I doing wrong? What am I not doing that I should be doing?
Yep.
I have no idea what I could have done differently.
Improved that. Yep.
You know what I mean? It's inevitably there's somebody else at the table that 100% understood, saw a path to victory, had this all planned out in their mind, and it just clicked with them, and they took off.
Yep.
And you're just watching them, and you're like, are we even playing the same game? Because I don't know what you're doing over there, but it looks really cool. And I'm looking down at what I'm doing, and it doesn't look very cool. And then the score basically
shows that it wasn't very cool either.
It followed suit. Yes.
Yeah.
So I understand that completely.
Sometimes you just see that loss coming, and then it's just like, here, let me pour out some salt and grind that in that wound.
Yeah. Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. It's one that I probably would have bought had I played the original Eclipse, because I own it. I bought it when it first came out. That was the Eclipse New Dawn for the Galaxy. I even have all expansions for it, and I've never played it. That being said, because I've never played it, I had no interest in getting the newer one when it initially came out.
When you haven't played the first one?
When I haven't played the first one. So it was never even on my radar. And honestly, games like this, because when I first bought it, they're like, oh, it's like Twilight Imperium, but better, more fun. And I'm like, oh, I really like Twilight Imperium. Okay. But I never played it. And games like that kind of have lost their luster for me. The time commitment, number one, the hurt feelings at the table that happen quite often in games where there's direct conflict. So I've kind of turned away from a lot of games like this, unless it's a 2-player game. Typically don't purchase games that fall into this category so much anymore.
I get that. Yeah, it's one that the 4-hour...
Yeah, it's just a huge time commitment.
Time commitment is one that's really made me shun away from it.
And I think that's generous, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, from what I've heard, and if you have new players at the table and anybody with AP at all, you're looking at a lot more time at the table than 4 hours.
I'm looking down the list here, and I have a question for you guys, because you were talking about Gaia Project and Terra Mystica a little bit. So let me give you some stats for Terra Mystica. This is a game that came out in 2012. It has 49,000 rankings. Exists right now it's at an 8.0. so people really like this one. Its overall rank is 31st, and it has a weight of 3.97, so it doesn't quite broach that 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
A good game, a well-rated game, an older game, and one that we've talked about. So now let's shift our gears a little bit to Age of Innovation. This is one that technically came out in 2023, but I think this was a 2024 game for a lot of people.
Right.
This is a re-implementation of Terra Mystica. Now, it only has 5.6 thousand ratings. Not as many ratings, but 5.6 is still a lot. 8.6 overall rating, but a 4.26 on the weight. This re-implementation maybe is a little heavier, but it seems to be a little more liked. A rating disparity, so take that with a grain of salt. And its overall rank is 69th. So, is this one... At what point does a game like this demand some attention from you guys because you like Terra Mystica so much? The Gaia Project and Terra Mystica games are ones that I enjoyed and I would play, but I'm not the one out there championing them. It seems like that's kind of more you and like Nathan and Andy. That seems like that's more your thing. So where does Age of Innovation fall on your radar, given that information?
Because I own Terra Mystica and Gaia Project, and with it being a re-implementation, I just kind of felt like, why? I mean, if I want to play a game that's like those, I'm just going to play one of the ones that I already own. So the idea of buying another game that is basically the same thing with maybe a few differences. I mean, obviously there are differences. Otherwise it would a second edition, third edition, whatever. I guess that's kind of where I stood as when I saw this come out is, it's kind of like a re-implementation of Terra Mystica. I'm like, well, I already own Terra Mystica, so why would I buy the re-implementation of it?
Because they do it different.
I know, but
I mean,
is it different enough to buy, right?
Yeah. I have a ton of games that are very similar to other games.
I know you do.
And
are they out of shrink?
Shut up. But to answer your question, Doug, where does Age of Innovation fit on my radar?
Yeah.
It fits on my shelf of shame.
Oh, do you have it?
I do have it, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, this is one that a fairly recent pickup.
Let's play it.
Why did I pick it up?
Tucked away somewhere on these shelves.
Because there's a BGA implementation of it. But it is on the shelf over there.
You don't need something that's giving you more issues, and that's all BGA is doing now. Amplifying the issues that are already there.
It's amplifying my smile.
Is it? Okay.
It is.
As long as that's working out for you.
Yeah.
Then.
No, it's working out.
Carry on.
Yeah. Age of Innovation is... what was the other one that we played at BGA that was
BGG?
Whatever. What was the other one that we played at BGG that was Terra Nova? Terra Nova, which is a simplified version of Terra Mystica. And I think they kind of took what Terra Nova was and brought back some of those core elements to bring Age of Innovation together. I'm anxious to try Age of Innovation. I'm anxious to try every game, right? I love to try new games. I love to experience new games. Age of Innovation is one that I'd like to get to the table for sure. It's probably one that we'll get to the table, and I'll start playing it with Doug and Richie, and then I will...
Just play it with Doug and Andy.
I would love to get it to Andy to play. And we'll play it at the table for sure once, and then you just need to get onto your BGA account and have some fun with us there too.
I don't have one.
You should get one.
Oh, I'll work on that. You guys wait for me, okay?
Let me hold my breath.
Yeah. Not holding my breath.
But yeah, Age of Innovation is on my shelf of shame, and it is something that I would love to get to at some point.
And you own like the newer reprinted version of Terra Mystica as well, right?
Yeah,
the big box. Yeah.
Yeah, the big box. That's what I meant.
And that's been played.
Yeah.
Thanks to Andy.
Like once in the last 5 years.
Shut up.
Hey, at least it got played. It did get played.
At least it got played.
It did, and it was fun.
Let's count that as a win.
It is.
So another one on here is On Mars. We've talked about this, and it is one I really want to play, and I really kind of want to pick it up. It's really heavy.
It's really heavy.
It's really heavy. It's a 4.67 on weight.
Wow.
And it plays 90 to 150 minutes, so it's a longer game.
But your first game is going to be a lot longer.
Oh, it will be. But it looks so fun. I mean, it really looks good.
I have a lot of interest in this game too. And I have a lot of fear at that 150 minutes with that 4.67.
But I think with the right player count and the right people at the table, 3 people, it's best at 3.
Yeah.
We get the 3 of us at the table.
I would love
to the table, and one of us reads the rules and does a solid teach on it. I think
Not
it could
me.
be I think
Yeah,
it
one,
could-
two, three, not it.
I think it could be a lot of fun though.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this. I'm looking at the gameplay. I'm looking at the pictures on BGG, and it looks like so much fun.
And
there's-
simple wood components that look really good too.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So this is one I've talked about this before. It's one that I honestly would like to pick up and probably will pick up at some point.
All right. Add it to the list for Andy.
Add it to the list. I don't know if it's even available anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
This is one that I would be willing to play and probably would be willing to add it to my shelf.
What's the big space game we just recently were gushing about that you got us to play?
The heavy one.
The heavy one. Yeah.
Voidfall?
Voidfall. Yeah. See, because I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I want to play this, but it's so heavy. And I'm like, I also want to enjoy games like Voidfall that we still have just barely scratched the surface on a few more times.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I guess that's where I'm at a little bit with some of these. Is it's just like, yeah, they do. I'm with you, Andy. They look good. They really do. This is one that I would be even tempted to add to my collection. But man, I've got so many games to play through, or so many games I'd like to play a little more before I start moving into stuff like this.
Yep.
And it's hard, and that's hard. That's a really tough problem to have because I want to play them all.
Yeah. Campaign games, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
You're going to run into the same issue with On Mars that I'm going to run into with Barrage, that it's not readily available, and new copies or copies that you're going to find out there are over $100.
Yeah.
And
Maybe I can find
I
a
guess
game swap somewhere.
I did find one here for $85, so that's not over the $100, but that's still a lot. But yeah, definitely if I see it in a game swap, yeah, I'm totally grabbing that.
Yes,
and Barrage. All right, going back to the list. So sometimes a theme of a game, of an excellent game, just like totally throws me off. We had this discussion recently, Douglas, that you were saying if a game doesn't perk your fantasy, right? Of I want to be in depth in that
the wish fulfillment, right? Every game has a certain level of wish fulfillment.
And so I look at this game, Rococo, which is a very highly rated game. It's 8.2. The theme of it has no wish fulfillment for me. You're making dresses for a prestigious ball while managing your deck of employees. Very well loved game. The mechanics are there. Just for some reason, dressmaking, attending a ball, not on my not on my highlights.
What?
Right?
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, if you hadn't said that, there's no way I would have ever guessed that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no Star Wars in there. There's no sci-fi in there. There's no.
I look at Nathan like that's the first thing that comes to my mind is dressmaking.
Well, that's the scarf.
Man, I almost got you Pret a Porter for Christmas, so I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. Dodge that bullet.
Dodge that bullet. Yeah, that was that awkward. Can I get the receipt for that? But this is a game that's very highly rated, and again, the mechanics are there. The style of the game is there, and I always hate to say how we judge a game. I mean, we play games. We say, "Oh, this mechanic is great. This mechanic is great. Love this," but sometimes it's just it doesn't matter how good the mechanics are if the theme doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah. And honestly, it can work the other way.
It absolutely
It can be a game that's just kind of, but the theme is so well implemented that you don't care because the theme hits home, and that just makes it enjoyable.
That's why I have a lot of bad Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've made mistakes that it's Star Wars. It's got some things that I like, but and that's the thing. It's unfortunate because Rococo has a lot of love. I'm totally drawing a blank on the name. Has the guy playing the violin on the cover.
Oh yeah, it's the one about Mozart.
That's another game that is it's really popular. It's got a lot of love.
It's called Lacrimosa.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
It's just one that wish fulfillment is a great explanation when you brought that up this last weekend, Douglas. It just doesn't draw me in. I don't want to go back in time and jam with Mozart. I don't want to
Make dresses.
Even if
it's like cool components. There's even a little bobbin.
Yeah.
I mean, come
Not
on.
selling me.
Come on, Nate.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we have to overcome that barrier, though,
We
right?
do, for
because
sure.
because you look at a game like After Us. Okay, this is not necessarily in the same weight, but it's another example of a game that has a lot of thematics. You're playing a tribe of apes, and you're 80 years into the future, and you're trying to develop knowledge, right? You're trying to grow your tribe,
Intelligence,
your
yeah.
intelligence, and all this. As far as theme goes, no wish fulfillment, zero, none for me. I would look at that game and just be like, I'm out. But then you play it and it's like, I really love this game. This is
Yeah,
great.
it's a
I'll play this
great
anytime. I take it with me to conventions and teach it and play it all the time. It's a great game. It's not a killer, but it is sort of that first impression that you get. And it's like, hey, one of the first questions I ask myself is like kind of wish fulfillment. Am I going to get out of this experience? And oftentimes that handshake is through the art, which is why we've talked about the art and why art draws us in and all that, initial, what is this game about? And what is it going to do for me in terms of wish fulfillment?
Yep.
And that's the initial thought process. That's all of the initial things that you go through.
Funny, I'm looking at our list. I just came across Rococo again, scanning through this list, and my cursor was right there in the middle of it. And I saw RoboCop, and I was like instantly interested in this game.
There it is.
And then I was like, oh, no, that's Rococo.
Yep, just to set that whole conversation
Yep.
home.
Yeah.
It's all that theme, huh?
Another one that's just a fairly new release that I would really wanted to try, but I haven't tried yet, the SETI, The Search for Extraterrestrial Life. This is a game that also has a lot of love for it. It's another 3-hour game, not necessarily feeling like I'm that interested in it, but if the game pulls me in and excites me and keeps me interested throughout the game, I very much can love this experience.
No, it's 40 to 160, right? So,
Yeah.
it could be shorter. I don't think doesn't look like it's one you'd play in 40 minutes unless it was with people who really knew the game well.
Or you lose really, really fast.
Or you lose really, really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really cool, actually.
This is one that made a lot of people's 2024 best games lists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people really like this one. It's generating a lot of buzz. I would like to play this. It's not available widely right now. I mean, it's sold
Starting
out,
to
so
come,
we're going to
yeah.
have to wait for another printing and another wave to come through before we can probably get our hands on it. But this is one I would maybe even consider adding to my collection. 8.4 with a weight of 3.7. I could get behind this one. Playtime, player count, everything on this looks pretty great.
You can get upgraded components for this, too.
318 BGA overall, so a lot of people are liking it with 3,000 ratings, and so a lot of people are giving it a lot of love. Comparing Gaia Project and Terra Mystica, this doesn't have a lot of reviews, but it has a lot of reviews that are giving it a lot of love.
Yeah.
And so, I'd very much like to try this game.
That's one thing to look at, though, because this is a fairly new game, and for it to already have 3,300 rankings, to me, that speaks a lot to it as well, that people took the time to go on there and rank the game. It hasn't been around for years. Like Doug said, it's one that a lot of people are talking about, a lot of people are having fun with, and it's one we need to try.
Yeah. Boone Lake, do you still own that? Or
I never owned it.
Okay. I owned it, played it once, and it made the culling list.
Why is that?
Mostly because probably the longer time frame.
Yeah.
That was Corey was here. He pulled it off my shelf of shame, the shelf of shame. Took it home, taught it to us. It was a really good game. That time span killed me on it. But some other ones that I wanted to hit on was Apiary. That was on your list, Doug. You and
I have
you
that
own
one.
that.
I think
I
at
used to
this
own
point, Andy has it too, don't you?
I don't.
Did you pick that up?
But
okay,
at
and
some
I
point
just
I
got
might.
the expansion for that. Yeah, it's a great game. We definitely need to play it some more. I played this a few times, and I taught it at SaltCon last year. Just got the expansion. We need to play it with that. It's a great game. Yep.
Yeah, and for some reason, when I went through it originally, it didn't make it on your list of games that you owned, which I thought was a little funny.
Oh, let me check and just make sure.
You know what? No, it was on your list.
Okay, good.
But for some reason, I don't think we... Oh, because we were in the debate of if it was in income or not income.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. Because I am having a little bit of a struggle knowing why that would be an income, mechanic, or what is the income mechanic in that game. So, but yeah,
I want to hit two more on this list. These are some classic games that I used to own that I culled, and actually both of these games I have cull regret, and if I find them, I would love to retrieve them, find them again. and that is Vikings that came out in 2007, increasing your line of Vikings that you own, and you're trying to score your income is all based on the tiles that are stacked. If you have your colored Vikings that are in a row, you're going to score some bonuses for them if you have those colors matching up above them and below them. This is a great tile drafting, tile placement game from 2007 that I would love to get back in my collection. One that I should look around and see if I can find again somewhere, hopefully in a game swap. And the other one that is on here is St. Petersburg, which is another classic game, 2004. Tile placement where you're putting the nobles and gain your influence and build your income, and the buildings that you're trying to accumulate that are going to give you both victory points and money. This is a very, very good game from the past, but it's just one that we stopped playing, and then I see it come back and I see it pop up every once in a while, and I'm like, I would really like to get that game back in my collection. Culling Remorse.
Culling Remorse. It is a thing.
It is.
There's a cure for that.
Yeah, it's called
not culling your games.
games.
Yep. Yeah, Andy, you're a big fan of that.
I'm really good at that.
Yeah, I remember that you were saying that, if I don't like this game, I want to play it, so if I don't like it, I can cull it. And I'm like, you're not going to cull it.
I might.
No, you're not. But that's all I have on the list that I wanted to hit on.
And a couple that I'll just make mention of really fast. These are both games that I have heard both good and some frustration, and that is Pan Am and Woodcraft that were also on this list. They are both on my want to play list, but they're on my try before buy. If we had an opportunity to play either of those, I would love to do that. For now, I'd like to try them first.
Woodcraft is one that I almost picked up back in the day. I would love to try it as well. Yeah. Fairly accessible, but not going into my cart.
No.
If I find it in a swap, maybe.
The last one I want to talk about is actually one I do own.
Okay.
But it's one I've never played, and I've owned it for years, and that is Railways of the World. My wife got this for me for Christmas, I don't even know, 10 years ago, maybe longer. When did it come out? I think it was fairly new when she got it for me.
It was fairly new when it came out?
No, it was fairly new when she got it for me.
But it was fairly new when it came out, too.
It was, too. So 2005.
2005, yeah.
Okay.
It's been a little while.
I don't think I've owned it for quite 20 years, but it's probably really close. It's been at least 15. Anyway, I've never played it. I do have it out of Shrink. Had started reading rules, but I've never played it. It's one that I think I might even be able to get my wife to play. Her and I will play Empire Builder, which is a fairly long game. So it surprises me that she enjoys it as much as she does, but she apparently likes train games. Hoping I can get her to play this one, and if it is being ranked as high as it is, yeah, maybe I can get her to this.
It sounds like you should go back and get the 10th anniversary edition of it, though.
Why?
There's some cool components.
I know, the components look amazing.
Yeah. But you need to play your version first.
But once again, yeah, I would just be buying another copy of a game I've never played.
Ooh, $150 on Amazon.
A game I do own but haven't played. I mean, come on, we've got a list of games here. Really, at least have played the ones that are on the list that we own.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah,
you would think that.
And I put on my goals is to play 200 new games this year and into February, and I haven't played very many new games.
I have a couple of games on here that I do own that I haven't played my copy of. I have played all of them on this list with the exception of Railways of the World.
Excellent. I think that gives us a good sampling of some of these games that we don't own. There's definitely games that we're going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking for if I come across some that I'm going to re-add to my collection if I find, and some that even if I just come across, I would pick up in a heartbeat. I hate that saying. I don't know why I said it. I'd pick it up.
You pick it up.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat?
Shut it.
Especially if it was Cooper Island, it would be in your cart.
Cooper Island, yeah. I would buy that just so I could.
We need Corey back.
Throw it away.
Someone who can appreciate this. Game.
Yeah, Corey would. I think Corey would very much
he
enjoy
has played
Cooper.
It.
Oh, did he play it with you?
He loved it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's totally a game up Corey's aisle. Aisle?
Alley.
Yeah.
You know,
I should stop making analogies.
Depends on where you are, Nathan. It could be an aisle or an alley. If you're in the grocery store, yeah.
If you're behind the grocery store,
there you go.
Are you in the grocery store or are you behind it? Because this makes all the difference, apparently.
Yeah.
And on that note, until next time,
we'll see you lost at the grocery store at the game table. That was terrible. At the grocery store or the game table?
Are we at the we're at the grocery store. We're at the game table here, Nathan. Oh, boy.
I don't know. I'm just lost.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation, or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.